What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about the Fantastic Four First Steps. Forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond, the Fantastic Four must defend Earth from a ravenous space god named Galactus and his enigmatic herald, the Silver Surfer. After the recent surprise with Marvel's Thunderbolts, as well as the resurgence of the DCU with James Gunn's Superman, I honestly thought that we were going to start simmering down on some promising superhero blockbusters. I mean, you know how the game goes. Sometimes we get a group of really good superhero movies, and then we're cursed with a lot of bad ones. So, considering that the MCU has been a little fickle as of late, I don't blame a lot of people for actually wanting to wait until streaming in order to settle for a mediocre Marvel installment. Now, before First Steps, there were actually 3 iterations of the Fantastic Four that tried to break ground. I mean, there was one that was in the 90s, which I did not hear about up until I actually started writing this review. And then there's the 05 and 07 version, 2 movies that were directed by Tim Story, which I grew up and loved. And then there's the 2015 reboot that was something that the studio, the original director, and a lot of the fans tried to bury, but if I'm gonna be honest, I mean, compared to actually seeing the Sonyverse, which consists of Morbius, Madam Web, and even Venom 3, Fan 4 Stick is not necessarily a terrible disaster of a rewatch. This marks the 37th film, as well as commencing the 6th phase in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Matt Shakman, the director behind WandaVision, reintroducing the Fantastic Four without the traditional origin story approach. I remember when the first announcement for this movie got dropped, and my goodness, the internet went wild. Just a lot of posts were just riddled with their theories, their rumors, their fan castings about who was going to play the Fantastic Four. And although we did get a taste of it in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I would have loved to see what a full feature would have been like had we gotten John Krasinski and Emily Blunt playing Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. And I do believe that I was rooting for Joseph Quinn from the very beginning to be Johnny Storm. After seeing the final product for myself, is Marvel back, or are we still running circles with hits or misses? And this was fantastic. First off, it was a breath of fresh air to really see how fleshed out this world was, this alternate Earth 828, where there is this retro futuristic aesthetic from their costumes to the exterior design of the cityscape, as well as the interior design of each and every one of their homes, as well as how technologically advanced they were for the 60s. I like that this movie didn't require homework, so if you've watched all the previous movies or have read all the comic books, good for you. But if this is your first step into being introduced to the Fantastic Four, you got nothing to worry about. It's very fresh, it's very brand new, and you don't have to worry about any reference or callbacks to the MCU canon. And that's what I also loved, is how they perceive the characters this time around, because Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben, they may be societal celebratory heroes, but they are scientists, explorers, and astronauts first. I love that the characters drove the plot and not the other way around, where I completely held back my expectations on the direction of where they wanted to take our characters. And for the first 30 minutes, you are just really enjoying the company of our 4 main characters with what they do with their everyday lives, as well as what they've done over the course of 4 years. They positively impact their communities, as well as constructively handle their foes, whether it's over in an old-fashioned fight or through negotiations. And I also loved Herbie, the family robot. I thought he was a great addition. He really reminded me of Wall-E, and the way that he just utilizes himself around the household just reminded me so much of how Jarvis was with Tony Stark. It is important to know that this movie is more story than it is action. So if you're going in expecting just nonstop fights and explosions from start to finish, you might as well get another ticket to Superman. And that doesn't necessarily mean that this movie is not entertaining. There is a lot of sequences that really handle their spectacle, as well as really individualizing each and every one of our main characters' abilities that are just fully put on display here, more so than the previous iterations. Once we get to the second act and the true plot is revealed and our main characters are in a race against time across space, you are just at the edge of your seat filled with dread all the way up till the end of Act 3. And that's where I really appreciated the tone, where there's this nice balance between having the corny and hopeful story of the superhero genre, as well as just seeing and facing the threat that raises the stakes. And it is very critical that our characters are on the same page and for them to actually work well together, and they do. Getting into the talent here, I was very doubtful in the beginning that Pedro Pascal was asked to fill in the shoes of Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, because, just like Chris Pratt, he was just almost in everything that we just got to cast him in every single big blockbuster. But although we don't get to see a lot of his powers at full scale, Pedro Pascal proves that he has a lot of range to embodying the team leader. I mean, especially for the Reed Richards character, his biggest flaw is that although he is one of the smartest men on the planet, he takes the world upon his shoulders at all costs. Vanessa Kirby's take as Sue Storm, aka the Invisible Woman, was an absolute standout and the heart of the film. And not only did she get a chance to display the best version of her powers, but she delivered the best performance amongst the four members of the team. And a lot of her scenes with Pascal were just magnificently poignant, as well as the monologue that she delivered with the public about sacrifice and facing obstacles together as a family was incredibly moving. The other surprise was how much material they gave Joseph Quinn to work with as Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch. And although the writers have found a sweet spot for Johnny to still be the jerk and the womanizer, they also add in intellectual curiosity when it comes to him exploring the stars. I mean, he may be labeled as the immature comic relief, but the guy is smart and sensitive. I love Richie from The Bear, so Ebon Moss-Bacharach as Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, was absolutely perfect casting. He enjoys cooking and likes being a civilized role model for the neighborhood kids. Although I do have a soft spot for Michael Chiklis' portrayal in the '05 and the '07 version, that it was a little unfortunate of how little focus they had on Ben's character when it came to his relationships outside of the group, as well as his scenes in action. A lot of hardcore fans are still going to be at odds with having a female Silver Surfer in the mix, played by Julia Garner. But if I'm going to be honest, I think that the weight of her presence in this alternate universe only makes things feel very urgent. I thought it was really cool to see what the Silver Surfer was fully capable of when they were unleashed. I was just left at awe. Last but not least, we are finally gifted the live-action portrayal of Galactus. And no, he is not a fart cloud this time. Trust me, you're going to want to see his introduction on the biggest screen possible. He is voiced by Ralph Ineson, and every single time Galactus spoke, the speakers in the auditorium began to vibrate, and I was just completely pinned to my seat once he finally reveals his ultimate goal. And given a lot of his little details and just like the CGI work that was done, just you can tell that a lot of time, care, and the budget mainly was properly given to this kaiju-sized villain, and I was just truly impressed. Getting on my mixed opinions, where this isn't necessarily the movie's fault, but much more about what I wanted to see after this being the fourth attempt to bring these characters to the big screen, and that's that I wish that I saw the longer version of this movie. And you know what? I know that audiences are probably bogged down with extensive runtimes when it comes to epic superhero movies, where this one just makes it under the 2-hour mark. And I know that a lot of supporting characters and subplots were very much trimmed down to keep a much more leaner pace. For example, we had Paul Walter Hauser as Mole Man, and he was one of the funniest, most charismatic elements of the entire movie, and he just gets sprinkled little moments here and there, and I hope we have not seen the last of him. Also, Natasha Lyonne, she plays some sort of love interest in Ben Grimm's life that it's not necessarily fully addressed or fleshed out, but if you took her out of the movie, it wouldn't have affected Ben Grimm's development and subplot at all. And also, John Malkovich was supposed to be some kind of character in this movie. I would have loved to see what he would have contributed as maybe some kind of villain from the past, but they omitted him from the final cut because they didn't want it to make the entire movie feel bloated as it was. Overall, I thought this was a Marvel-flavored blend between the Jetsons meets the Incredibles. I thought that this was the most fun, compelling, and outstanding version of the Fantastic Four family we've ever gotten on the big screen, that I really do look forward to their next adventure or with any other potential Avenger character that they might interact with or come across down the road. I am still curious as to how they're still going to wrap up the Thunderbolts post-credits scene with this movie. I mean, we didn't necessarily cap it off here, but the mid-credits scene that we did get had me screaming inside, just turn around already. Well, alright guys, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you want to. I am Jaren Banawag. Look forward to more reviews, and I want to thank you guys again for taking some time out of your day to hear me talk some movies. I'll see you guys at the theater. In the meanwhile, take care.